Rises up, the shot, and it's good! It's good! Wisconsin has won!
That's not miss, bitch.
Bruzewicz to midcourt. Rust has it, lets it go!
What the hell am I doing here?
By Taylor, the 20 to the 15, cuts inside 10, 5, touchdown, Wisconsin.
Welcome back to another episode of the Badger Notes After Dark podcast, brought to you by Tom Brady and the good folks over at Autograph. I'm your host, Dylan Graff, co-founder of BadgerNotes.com. You can follow the podcast on YouTube at Badger Notes After Dark or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. I'm back, with the A-team this week. We're ready to completely turn the page, talk some football. Las Vegas, set their over under win totals. Badgers got a quarterback competition brewing, a couple spring practice notes, and then we're going to do some heavier conversation. Expectations for the upcoming season, program expectations overall. Just prep for Coop and Ryan fighting in some capacity, I would have to imagine. And then we'll bring it home, with Big Dog of the Week. What are we doing here for real this time? Maybe I won't even cut us off. Well, so fellas, Jay, I want to get into it right away. Las Vegas has got their over under for Wisconsin this season set at 6.5. First of all, how do you feel about that? And then tell me, what are your expectations as of right now going into this season?
Yeah, I mean, initially when you hear that number, I feel like, and just knowing, like, historically the Badgers have been good. So it's like you hear that number, it's like, what the fuck? And then you go through the schedule and it's kind of dicey. I just was looking at it before, and it's like, I don't know that there's a ton of games that you're like, yeah, the Badgers are 100% going to win that game. There's maybe a few that could be like 75, 80% confident. But I mean, 6.5, I think is a good number, because I think if they can get to 7 wins, I'll be content. And if they could get past that, I'll be thrilled.
I think 6.5 is the number.
Yeah,
Vegas.
Absolutely.
So, Ryan, where's your head at right now when you hear that number?
I would put every single dollar I have available for disposable income on the over.
Oh, okay. I love confident Ryan. I love optimistic Ryan.
I look at it like, before you can go forward, you got to go back. So you kind of look at last year, 7-5. We can make whatever we want out of the schedule. But outside of, I don't know, I could argue that a couple breaks here or there, like Northwestern kind of beat your ass, but that Ohio State game was close with Braedyn Locke getting was that his first start or second start?
First start. He came in the week before that against Iowa in relief.
Right. Yeah, and in that Iowa game, I mean, obviously if ifs and buts were beer and nuts, we'd all be having a hell of a party, or ifs were fists, we'd all be drunk. But if you get a couple more balls to roll your way, no diddy, you're not going to be 7-5 like we were last year. You're very close to 9-3 or 10-2. Like Iowa had a competitive eating champion throw for 37 yards and finish 10-2. So the fact that so it's like, I look at the schedule.
We don't have the Iowa defense.
True, but our defense is going to be vastly improved.
It's going to be better.
But when I look at the schedule, like with a better improved defense, an offense that's in year 2 of the system, all the playmakers are going to have that timing and the reps and all these different things that they didn't have as they kind of amalgamated together, and kind of like bits and pieces from like this program and this program and this program. I don't know. I'm always very optimistic. I was the guy that also called for a 40 burger every time last year and got 0 of them. So if you want to fade me on that, go ahead. You'll probably make a lot of money. I don't know. I could see them winning a lot more games than we probably think they will. I don't think they're going to go 0 for 4 in their big games. And as long as they don't have a couple games, I think you can get to that 7 number pretty easy.
Well, and I know we've talked about kind of their schedule before, but like you look at the 4-game stretch, even the 5-game stretch to end the season at Northwestern, home at Penn State, or home against Penn State, at Iowa, home against Oregon, at Nebraska, and then Minnesota for the Axe.
They get Oregon off a bye.
Yep, and Minnesota home.
I mean, it matters that late in the season.
Yeah, we get USC and Oregon. We get a bye going into both of those games.
If I'm being 100% honest, I'm not scared of USC.
Neither am I.
Really.
No,
I'm right there with you.
I'm more worried about Nebraska than USC.
Yeah, because they're physical.
I'm being 100% honest.
I am too, because they're physical. They'll beat you up.
And dude, I love Matt Rule. I hate Nebraska, but
and
Matt
at
Rule
Nebraska.
is a slam dunk.
Yeah, at Nebraska.
I've
heard Ryan on Lockdown say this a few times. So I think normally, especially last year, I think all of us were super, super like maybe biased and hoping that the Badgers would be better than they were. But Ryan said it a bunch of times this year or already this offseason that like I think we've almost swung the opposite way and we're maybe underselling this team and like we're too tentative right now.
Emotionally, yeah, that's where I need to be.
Maybe in zone, you just hope that we play better.
No,
if you admit you're not excited, does that make you actually really excited? I don't know.
No, I think that's a really fair point. Like obviously expectations, from the outside were, at an all-time high. Our fan base was understandably excited about Luke Fickell coming in and, a handful of the moves that they made. And we fell well short of those expectations, and there are a lot of things you could point to. Like we're not going to, like injuries obviously made a difference. Like you can't, at the end of the day, you have to overcome, whatever your situation is. But yeah, I think it is entirely possible that we are underselling this team, because I think so basically I will take the over the 6.5. However, I don't think it's going to be by a ton. So where I'm at with it is I think to kind of lump in my expectation for this season where I'm at, I think that the team will look markedly better. The product will look much better. But I'm unsure of how many wins I would like to, commit to on their win-loss record in terms of what that will look like. That's kind of where I'm at with things. But yeah, that's me being extra cautious given last year. And perhaps that isn't fair, because I genuinely believe that we have a lot more talent on this roster than we did a year ago.
I mean, give me the over at like half a unit. Like this is the right number.
I think it's totally fair.
I wouldn't put a lot of money on the over/under on this. I can't wait until like the player props for the season come out, and then we're emptying clips, baby.
Yeah,
I got one for you guys in terms of last year's team, maybe just to put the talent level in perspective. And again, this is zero blame. So Dane Brugler today dropped his annual The Beast, draft rankings.
I didn't read that. Was it good?
It is good, and I have all of the player projections from last year's team for this draft class, and to say it's underwhelming would be an understatement. That obviously Braylon Allen is in there as a potential top 100 pick. They got Bortolini as a 3rd to 4th rounder. The only other Wisconsin Badger according to Dane Brugler's list, with any prayer of being drafted, is Peter Bowden, our long snapper. So. Yeah. And so I think that right there maybe is enough to maybe paint a picture of the lack of high-end talent that we had, and maybe also a tip of the cap to Jim Leonard for routinely, turning out an impressive product with, maybe not necessarily high-end talent.
Well, we've had high-end talent. We've had a lot of guys get drafted in the past before this year. Sure. And I felt like we knew going into this year, this was like one of our weaker teams as far as it came to like NFL guys. I feel like everyone knew that.
Maybe in terms of NFL talent, that might be accurate, but this is one of like, in terms of their winning timeline, at least in college, like last year was supposed to be it.
I think you got to be careful, like just with the draft too, because even the undrafted guys, those UDFAs like TJ Edwards and Jack Sanborn, I believe those were both. They're both starters. I mean, they're both starters in Chicago, believe it or not.
I think that's a little different though. Those two dudes both like led the team in tackles at Wisconsin.
Sure, but there's no
guy on the team last year that. I think those guys are undervalued. I don't know that there's anybody on that Wisconsin.
Yeah, I would say in general, like I'm totally with you. Obviously, the Badgers, like we're really close to the situation, so there's plenty of cases where it's like we knew that guy would be great.
Yeah,
we've seen every snap of him, but I don't think there's a guy outside of this range of players that we've discussed where I would like pound the table for them, that they're going to be, an NFL player. Like if one guy, one UDFA makes a team, will I be shocked? No, but I don't know who I'm betting on.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, who is John Meta or who? So
Muma Jong Meta is listed as the 26th ranked linebacker, as a priority UDFA. So like he's gonna have a shot to make a team, but he also ran a 4.9. That's not gonna be real
not
coverage. Great. Tanner Mordecai is the 25th ranked quarterback.
He needs to go to the UFL or something, brother. He's
and that's what I appreciate about the UFL, that being an option, is these guys can surrender more tape, like a Tanner Mordecai. Maybe you're a camp arm.
He can play there though.
But that's what I'm saying. You get your opportunity to play there, and maybe a guy like him works his way back because he didn't get to play, full season at Wisconsin. Furtney is the 43rd ranked guard. Getz is the 46th ranked linebacker, and Travion Blaylock is the 56th ranked safety. Yeah. And if you want to go further, we have Hayden Rucci is the 64th ranked tight end, and Jason Maitre is the 128th ranked corner
from Boston College.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who I would be putting my money on, and maybe this is a conversation for another week, but I will just say, and I think to try to bring all this back, maybe we are undervaluing this team, because I think if I look at the roster today, I feel like there is more NFL talent on this upcoming season's roster than what we had a year ago.
But Dylan, to that point, so obviously we might talk about practice a little bit later, but just looking at the acquisitions and what we saw with our eyeballs and read with our eyeballs, in my opinion, every single position room got better. I think the one you could point to and question would be the defensive line, which it's been a bugaboo for a while, but you're getting Willer. You got a couple transfers. Like, you did the best you could in the time you could, but it's like, so I would say even if that one is just neutral, even though I'm really high on Willer, every other position group got better. Inside linebackers, significantly better. DBs, I mean, with RJ Delancey, with all those guys that they brought in, Braedyn Moore, Amari Snowden, like getting year two, like, I don't know, every position
I think your outside linebacker room just becoming dynamic, having options that make you dynamic. I think that right there, could be a huge difference, because we've traditionally had that. And I mean, no knocking anyone, but last year, like, there was no pass rush.
I have a two-part question here. One, since we were kind of talking about potential NFL players, Ryan had Braylon Allen getting drafted 90th overall to the Cardinals in one of his mock drafts. Where do you guys see him going? I think that's about right.
He's perfect for the James Conner role if you care about Arizona Cardinals football.
I could see the Cowboys taking him in like the 3rd or 4th round.
I think he would be a fun fit for the Cowboys. I think round 3 for me is where I think he goes. I think he's a 3rd, 4th round player, but he's also 20 years old, and they're like a team. They have a super short shelf life. I think someone, will love some of the measurables. And
did you see? Speaking of measurables, did you see him and Derrick Henry in that picture? What the fuck,
looks like a child.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Derrick Henry ain't missing too many meals, brother.
Dude, that's like, the classic picture is the Derrick Henry marking room one, where it's like both these guys play are 1,000-yard rushers at the same position. Like,
Braylon looked like a child.
Yeah.
I'm like, that dude is enormous, and you just made him look like
Braylon is a massive human being.
This may be in the place for it, but Derrick Henry's high school stats are like forever one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Bro, he had like 40 touchdowns that one, like, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was up there.
How is somebody like a me-sized motherfucker or a team full of guys that are my size, but to bring him down ever?
And then I'm gonna look up his high school stats. But while I'm doing that, the second part to my question was, Ryan said every room got better. Do you think the running back room is better over? I know Ches got hurt. Say he's healthy the whole year. Allen, Ches, and then you got Walker, Ches. And then, I mean, there's 3 other guys who could probably play.
I mean,
I think there's more depth.
Yeah,
there
the depth
fucking
I think
better
is
be.
more
You got,
better than-
you got 8 scholarship backs. There fucking better be. No, there absolutely is, in my opinion. I think you got way more.
Is there more talent though? Like, there's more depth. Is there more talent?
Yes.
I would say relative to what I think that we saw they might want from that position, I'm gonna say that there will be, and I think I'm very high on the 2 incoming freshmen that have not enrolled yet. So I think between one of Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones, I would be shocked if one of them did not hit and become an impact player. But I think that having Ches Malusi and Tawi Walker at the top of the depth chart gives you guys that fit way better what you want to do. And
I think Walker's better than Allen. Yeah.
I was just reminded that day you guys went to practice, they put out a clip of like the offense doing shit. And it was a swing pass to Jackson Aker, and I almost spiked my computer. So.
He put a lick on that motherfucker though.
That was it. That was.
I know.
That wasn't somebody small. That was Brown.
It just
It's
PTSD.
Yeah,
PTSD.
All right. Here's Derrick Henry's high school stats from his senior season, just because these are fucking insane, bro.
I'm pretty sure for his career in high school, he ran for like 12K yards.
I think it was 13,000, but yeah. This is senior year. First game, 31 carries, 336 yards, 3 touchdowns. Next game, 15 carries, 242 yards, 4 touchdowns. 41 carries, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns. 45 carries, 510 yards, and 6 touchdowns. 35 carries, 362, 6 touchdowns. 16 carries, 201, 3 touchdowns. That was his second worst game of the season. I won't go through all of them, but that
was them limiting.
Yeah, his worst game of the season. One team held him to 43 carries for 189 yards and 1 touchdown. It was the only team to hold him over 200 yards in his senior season.
Did the quarterback have any passing touchdowans that year?
I don't know. I'd love to look at those.
Can't imagine you would have wasted your time.
Yeah, it was Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
He threw the ball.
He finished the season. He finished his season with 462 carries in a high school football season.
That's so many.
High school was getting that mileage out of him.
4,261 yards, good for 9.22 per carry, and 55 touchdowns.
That'll play.
I mean, was that 14 games? So he did almost 33 carries a game.
Yeah. And in his high school, here we go, his high school career, he recorded 1,397 carries in high school.
Good God.
Running for 12
this year's free agent deal, you have to take that into consideration.
He ran for 12,124 yards, so you were right, Dylan, and 153 touchdowns in high school.
That's nuts.
I wonder why he went to Bama.
Yeah, right. That's fucking crazy. Dude, I could look at like some of these guys like high school stats all day. Just like one of my favorite things to do is just sit down with the boys and look at like 2003 NBA drafts. Like, dude, remember this guy? Or like who? Like, okay, boys, let's redraft this. Here we go.
Yeah, the 2011 NFL draft, probably the best one ever. Just go back and look at that. How many Hall of Famers are in that one?
Was that the Mahomes draft? No,
that was Cam Newton, Von Miller, AJ Green, Patrick Peterson, Cam Hayward.
Jesus Christ!
That's just in the first round.
I'm gonna blow your mind here. 2011, 13 years ago.
I know that makes me feel really fucking old.
What was the
It makes me feel really old. Once I said it, I knew I was wrong, and I was like, "Damn, I'm old." Mahomes was like 2016, 2018, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was 17 because, he was 17 because the Cardinals took Josh Rosen in 18 because the Cardinals were trying to get Mahomes and the Chiefs went up there, so that was 17.
And then they got Josh Rosen.
Yeah, what a.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Badgers got themselves a quarterback competition going on.
Transition.
Great segue.
Going on this spring. I will save my opinion for the end. I think it'll roll into the fall. Ryan, I want to talk with you right now. We got a quarterback competition. Do you think it is legit? And which way do you think the pendulum will end up swinging for the first game of the season?
Well, I don't really think it's a competition. I think Tyler Van Dyke will probably be out of town by fall camp, based on what I saw and what I've read so far. That's a little bit
Clip
hard.
that.
Huh?
Yeah,
I said clip that.
Yeah, you can. I'm wrong on every take I have, so I'd be dead wrong on that one too. But I don't know. It's just I've heard way too much to think it's a real like a genuine competition. I think Locke is taking the job right before our eyes. You've heard Fickell say multiple times. Now, I understand he's new in a system, but he's also been here since January. He's been doing winter conditioning. So why do you need a guy that's been here 4 or 5 months with his teammates doing all this hard work to come out of your shell, to be more assertive? Like, does he want to be here? Like, you hear about even in practice, like he's throwing picks and almost picks. And then like you read like a couple paragraphs down, and Dylan and I were both in practice. He was throwing some dimes. It was like he was like Tom. You want to feel old? He was like Tom Glavine back in the 90s.
Oh man,
you needed some gas. He had the gas. You need to take something off of it. He had this beautiful ball to Tyrell Henry down the sideline. It was probably it was in individual drills on one-on-one. I'm not going to out the person he just got roasted by, but it was in a basket, like 45 yards between the numbers and the sideline. That same play we wanted Mordecai to hit Skylar Bell in the Purdue game, where he airmailed it, put it right in the basket. And then when he was doing the 11-on-11s, he had one where he was rolling out to the left, like off platform, threw it over a linebacker, right to the wide receiver, caught it, and then like in front of the safety. It's just like he's got the darts. He's got everything. I think the biggest thing is his stature. But it's like if Tyler Van Dyke doesn't get it figured out, I don't think he's going to get the job, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a meritocracy. And if you're throwing interceptions in practice and you're not being assertive and you're not coming out of your shell, you can't have that guy under center week 1.
Yeah, I definitely I hear what you're saying, and I think ultimately Braedyn Locke looks much bigger. I mean, I think he has put a lot of work in the weight room, and I think that that was pretty evident, and I feel pretty comfortable saying that he's taken a pretty big step forward, physically. Jason, want to throw it over to you. Where's your head at with all this? What do you, if you had to put your money down today, who do you think we'll see starting when the first game of the season rolls around?
I hate everything that Ryan just said. I'm going to be honest.
I
don't think you're wrong by any means. But if you're right, I think that makes me feel worse about the season, just because I just think that I'm struggling to see the ceiling with, and I don't know anything about Tyler Van Dyke really, so like maybe it's not a great comparison, but I think quarterback play is going to take us wherever we go. And just from Locke last year, I don't know that. I think his limited ability to be off script and run in general just limits the offense a lot. And granted, it hopefully is a much better offensive line, and it's receivers in year 2 of a system, so it could be a lot better. But I'd have to see a lot different to be confident in Braedyn Locke personally.
I mean, the one thing we know about Locke, he can fucking sling it, dude. When he's on, he's on. So I'll give you that. I love Braedyn Locke. We talked about it last year. I thought we should have kept going with him instead of Mordecai. I could definitely see him winning the job, but it's just hard for me to imagine after, what we pay Van Dyke, one. Do you think they take that into consideration? Or, I'm with Ryan. If you're a good coach, you got to put your team in the best position to win. I don't give a fuck who it is, how much they make. But sometimes that gets taken into consideration. And the other thing is, too, Van Dyke, his freshman year, after that, they were talking about him being like potential first-round pick down the line. And then I think he went through 2 coordinators, kind of struggled his next 2 years. So, but the potential is there. But we said the same thing about Tanner Mordecai. So,
potential gets you fired. We've been saying that about Evers now for the last 2 years. At some level, it's about what have you done. It's like, yes, Tyler Van Dyke was good his freshman year, but that was 3 years ago, my friend. Like, and it's like I get what you're saying about how much money you spent him, but sometimes you got to spend a little money and learn some lessons. Like we were talking about earlier. We have $1.3 million or so tied up in the offensive line room as coaches. So at some level, you got to sometimes pay the money and move on. I don't know that. And I was talking a little bit of hyperbole where I said he wouldn't be on the roster, but it's like time's ticking. Like at the end of the day, like this portal window is going to open. People are going to leave. Like you're already starting to see the writing on the wall for some guys where they're at on the depth chart. And it's like if Locke keeps playing the way he is, I get it. He could sling it all over the yard. I get where Jay would be a little bit nervous, but it's like in a Longo offense, if you can push the ball down the field and you can be accurate, and Renfro's hitting those snaps right in his hands, and he's not having to dance just like Mordecai is, he can do those off-platform, off-schedule. Because we saw it in practice.
I mean, I could be fully convinced on Braedyn Locke just because I do think that he just seems like the very stereotypical gritty guy, first guy in, last guy out, coach's son type of guy. But
White.
yeah, but I mean, like,
athletic.
and it's totally what, again, like we always say, what have you done for me recently? When I think of like a successful Phil Longo offense, it's been Sam Howell and Drake May, who both can move a lot more than Braedyn Locke.
Yeah.
That's the only thing where it's like I'm a little bit nervous. And our success last year on offense was pretty much stemmed by Mordecai being able to move.
But that wasn't by design, though.
Agreed. I totally agree with that.
Oh yeah, that was necessity.
Yeah, right. That's true.
I do think that's a really fair point, about how I think that the running or the quarterback running as much as they did last season was not necessarily by design early, but it had to be.
But towards the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of this year, where the quarterback competition is at now, I don't want to overreact to what we've seen, what we've heard, but I do think that there is some merit to it. I think Wisconsin is absolutely allowing Braedyn Locke the opportunity to go out and win this job. I think there's layers to this. In the transfer portal era, as Ryan mentioned, like the spring portal is open, and if you don't get guys the looks that they're wanting, I'm not suggesting this is what they're doing, but like, continuity is huge, and I think they have brought in a tremendous amount of talent at quarterback. We don't know if any of them will hit, but on paper there's a lot of talent here that you can feel good about, and if you can get them to stick with you, develop over time, I think next year you feel awesome about what you have going into that quarterback competition, knowing whomever is left, if you can keep what is there, you will feel really good about the product at the end of the day. And so I think they've done a really good job of making sure, their top four guys are getting all the reps. I think also the offensive line depth this spring is concerning. I mean, they have 3 freshman offensive linemen that are going to join the team this summer, but right now they have 2 tryout players on the third team offensive line. And so like they're having to split first and second team reps just to ensure these quarterbacks stay alive, which I think is also important. But at the end of the day, I think Braedyn Locke is legitimately getting an opportunity to, go after this job. I do think that, it has been 6 practices at this point. Pads just came on. He is learning the system. Yeah, I think Braedyn Locke obviously should have the head start and should be, in theory, like the things that we are talking about having seen. Like, I think it's fair to expect him to take a step physically, to be leading this room. He's the most familiar with the system. But also there comes a point too where Tyler Van Dyke, you mentioned, okay, yeah, we thought this about Tanner Mordecai, and not to discredit him at all, because I love Tanner Mordecai. I wish we had another year. Van Dyke, he did it at Power 5. He did it at a Power 5 level, for a handful of years. And so I think that there's enough pedigree there, a sizable enough NIL investment that if all things are equal, I think you roll with Van Dyke. And so for that, I just think there's a long way to go. And I don't feel like I can move off Tyler Van Dyke being the guy who I anticipate starting week 1 right now, but I'm very open to that possibility changing if things don't change.
How likely do you think, they opened the season with South Dakota?
No, Western Michigan.
Oh, okay. So they have
South Dakota's the second week.
Okay, they have 2 games. I was going to say, how likely do you think it is that we see multiple quarterbacks play without it being a blowout? You know what I mean? Maybe because we said this last year too, and not to get ahead of myself, but I feel like not having some sort of package for Evers is almost disingenuous to the program because like his skill set is just something that the Badgers quite simply have never had at quarterback. Like
I think 90% of college programs have never had something like that at quarterback. I mean, his physical tools are elite.
DJ Gillen, free DJ Gillens.
DJ Gillen, like a word.
I have tweets. I have like
Gary Anderson had us thinking we were so
DJ
fucking back.
But to Jay's question,
Awesome.
at the Evers part, but I think a lot gets lost with Locke in particular. Like you were talking about, like Tyler Van Dyke had starts at a Power 5 level. He also got benched at a Power 5 level for turning the ball over. He threw 12 of them things last year. And if you look back at Locke, I think this is the part that like frustrates me because I have arguments with people all the time because I'm a Locke stan, Locke since the Lulu Locke time. But I think a lot of the nuance is missed. He came into the game. He had never played a down of college football and had to go up against, and I looked up the numbers. Iowa was the third most efficient defense last year, and he came in with 0 college football experience and had to play against the number 3 Iowa, number 5 Ohio State, and was in both games. So it's like the idea that like we talk about like more or less in the NFL, you always hear about that second year jump, but it's like he got 4 games of experience and he threw 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, and the 1 pick was on 4th down. He got blasted by the Iowa guy and he sailed it. So it's like, and that was towards the end of the game where it's like you're just trying to make a comeback. It's like you're going to be a lot more careful with it than on 4th down 9. So it's like at some level, I know he had a couple fumbles on strip sacks, but it's like you're going to get better with ball security. You got a whole year in the system. He's bigger, faster, stronger, and he has game experience that we say is so invaluable. It's like I don't know. I would probably want to go with Locke, and I still think.
Why did they go back to Tanner then?
Because you had to.
Did you?
I think you had to, just because he didn't lose. Like he didn't. Locke wasn't doing enough to get it going at that point. That it's like you wanted to go back to the guy that could steady the ship, that was the leader. He was because for all accounts, like last offseason, it was Mordecai, like as the dudes of the week. He was the one leading everybody, organizing it. And it's like he broke his hand. He worked so hard to come back. I feel like you probably could have went with Locke, but they probably were trying to help him get some more film to get drafted or have a chance.
I don't think they get bowl eligible. I don't think they would have gotten bowl eligible without Mordecai last year. I really don't. And I want to make it clear, I'm a guy who also believes in Braedyn Locke, long term. I mean, this is a guy who's just entering his redshirt sophomore season. Like the book is not written on his career. Like if Braedyn Locke ends up being the guy, I will feel good about that because I'll know he beat out a guy with 28 starts under his belt, from playing at the U. Like that's not nothing. Braedyn Locke winning would not be some.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Like, to me, that wouldn't be an indictment of the state of our like quarterback room. It would be an encouraging sign in terms of like we saw what Braedyn Locke was, and if he's beating out, Van Dyke, to me that tells me that he's at least improved that much, and to know that we might have that to grow with for multiple years, I think would be really encouraging to me. So like I'm not viewing the possibility of Locke winning as a negative. I think all the way around this is a positive. I think that this being a legitimate quarterback competition of any kind is huge because last year it was just Mordecai had the keys. Locke was the number 2. That was it. That's all that it was. And, even guys like, Nick Evers is getting the opportunity to show himself this spring. I don't think, unless something changes substantially, that he's going to all of a sudden be in the 2 deep. But, I think it's pretty clear that he's a lot better player right now than he was a year ago. And there's no ceiling on his game. There's no ceiling.
Put a couple fucking like Taysom Hill packages in for the guy.
Hashtag free Nick Evers.
That'd be a perfect goal line or like
start the movement.
Short red zone.
I'm gonna tweet it. I might tweet it after this episode.
And
I'll retweet it as soon as you post it.
As far as Van Dyke, what'd you say he had 12 interceptions, Ryan?
I think so. I'd have to go back and look. He had double digits every year.
And I mean, yeah, that's an issue. But I didn't watch all his games. Like, there's some good you can have good interceptions, unlucky throws here or there. So,
well, he had multiple.
I don't want to indict him too much for that because I didn't watch enough games.
Well, he had multiple games of 3 picks though, and they lost to Middle Tennessee State. So
that is an issue. That is problematic.
Like, all right. I mean, he torched Texas A&M though. There was some boosters down in Texas that were not. Those yell leaders were not happy when I think he threw 5 tutters on him.
Fucking Texas A&M.
I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is that the Badgers have a quarterback room from top to bottom that like is worth talking about for once. You know, like obviously we always know who the contenders are and where you are at the depth chart, but this is the first time in a while where that's been up in the air, and for very different reasons, all of the quarterbacks that we're talking about are, you know, worth being excited about. Like Tyler Van Dyke, you're experienced. You have a big arm. Like, you know, in there is some pedigree. You know, Braedyn Locke is a guy who is very cerebral. Like he knows the playbook like the back of his hand. You know, obviously he didn't complete a ton of passes last year, but I think in general, a really accurate passer. Nick Evers has absolutely no ceiling on his game. He just has all the physical tools you could ever dream of that clicks, could be a star. And Mabry Mettauer is a guy who I think brings a little bit of all of it. Like I think he's probably one of the most well-rounded, you know, prospects you could potentially have as a early enrollee freshman. And I think just top to bottom, like I feel better about that room than I maybe ever have top to bottom. You know, at least during my fandom. So
does it make you, do you feel any different about it because it's spring as opposed to like when it's summer? Because like personally, like if nobody separated themselves by the summertime or when you get closer to the season, like you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think to your point, like that's fair. You know, but I also don't like some of the guys lower on the depth chart, like an Evers, like a Mettauer. I'm not expecting them to vault themselves into this conversation. I really like their long-term prospects, and they're giving them opportunities to actually get those reps. So I think they're doing a lot more to develop the room as a whole. Yes, overall, like I'm in total agreement with you. If by summer, you know, we're hearing that like we're still distributing all these reps up, like, yeah, that's a problem, because that means that nobody has proven I can most consistently execute what's being asked of me. And that's an issue. That would be an issue. But
do you think that would be politics though? Like not like they were trying to lead people on, but I feel like if it's clear that like Locke is the guy by end of camp, you know you're going to lose at worst a quality backup, as opposed to like kind of doing, for lack of better terms, do the dog and pony show. Like, hey, we'll go into fall camp. No one's separated themselves, but like you kind of have an idea who's going to start, but you don't want to lose one or the other to the portal and then not either have a backup. Because like, you know, let's say Tyler Van Dyke, or I don't think Locke would leave, but let's say one of them left, and now you're stuck with like Evers, who we think would be great, no ceiling, or Mettauer. It's like that's a disaster season. That's a disaster scenario.
I've thought about that plenty, and I think it's a really fair point. It's going to be really hard for quality programs to have backups that they feel very good about. Like I feel like your backups are going to be, in most cases, either A, not ready, or B, really low ceiling. Like you're going to have to go garage sailing and find yourself a veteran willing, like who knows they're not going to be a starter. Like I think that whole dynamic, and I think that's for any position group. You know, I think building that depth until all of this becomes something where, like, you know, the deals that they're signing with programs can be multi-year, have guarantees. I think it's going to be really hard, you know, to build depth and kind of have guys that you feel as good about being ready to step in.
One thing too, just while we're on the fucking fellas, and kind of another question going off of what Ryan said, he feels like every room has gotten better. Thoughts on the wide receiver room, boys, especially since you guys went to practice?
Ryan, why don't you take that one?
I think it got better. Not because of a lot of things brought in. I just think a lot more opportunities. Like I really like Tyrell Henry. He made some flash plays in camp or in the practice that we went to. You know, obviously I'm ahead to this will probably air tomorrow. So on Thursday, I'm gonna go to practice, so I can have more to watch. But just after that one, I really like Tyrell Henry. I like his speed. He's got good route running. He was able to separate from a couple different defensive backs at practice. CJ looks absolutely shredded. So he got bigger. Now,
Yeah, he put on 15 pounds this off season.
Holy shit!
Yeah, he got big.
6'2", 6'3", right? He's yoked. But I think what Dylan would probably say something similar. They had, and we can't. I think we were told we can't go into like detail of packages, but just so happens like if you had 3 wide receivers on one side, and then like let's say you put Tretch and Pauling in there, that is a nightmare for defenders because who are they going to cover in that? Especially if you're at the wide side of the field. Hypothetically, who are they going to cover? You put like a Bryson Green or a CJ over there, so you have a big body. That is nightmare fuel for a defense because those two are magicians with their routes. Like just watching them in individual drills, they look like Pauling and Tretch look like they weren't even being covered because by the time they did enough wiggle, they had like 3-4 yards and there was no one by them. And we're talking about that was against RJ. We're talking Amari Snowden, like really long, lengthy players. They were getting separation with ease.
What about Burrows? That's a guy I'm excited about.
He's made a lot of plays. Like he made a couple at the practice we were at, and then I just read some of the practice reports, and he caught like a bomb from Locke in the 7-on-7 yesterday.
I think in general, there's almost nowhere to go but up, and I don't say that as like a shot at what they did last year. Obviously, Will Pauling had the 5th most receptions in a single season in Wisconsin history. Like he had a big season. Bryson Green, at the end of the day, I think the stat line probably reflected something more like we expected, but we didn't get.
There was a lot of misplays out there with Bryson Green.
Right. I think that we probably thought he was going to be more, but like, we saw how dynamic he could be in the bowl game, when they were able to push the ball downfield. I think that there probably exists a very real opportunity where, he's able to take a step, and, everyone's talking about the wide receiver 3 battle, which I get it. Like CJ Williams, Vinny Anthony, Quincy Burrows, these are all guys who do something different. CJ Williams is high pedigree, put on a lot of weight. I think he's a guy that in a perfect world you would want to win that competition. But also Burrows and Anthony, those are guys that have big time straight line speed. And so if one of them was to separate, like that could add a dynamic that would be really different. And well, all of those guys, I think, bring something worthwhile to the table and will obviously make for better depth this season because all of them will be, theoretically better. I mean, Luke Fickell talked about how much more consistent they've been, that they weren't always on the same page last year as the quarterbacks. Like a lot of youth, a lot of guys who just came in, but I continue to think that position battle doesn't matter that much. And because I believe that collectively those guys will give you something and that will be house money. But I think Tretch is going to be this team's 2nd or 3rd leading receiver this year, even backing up Pauling. I genuinely believe that. I'm willing to almost say like I think he'll be the team's 2nd leading receiver, but I don't want to discredit Bryson Green. I think in no order it will be, Will Pauling will sit up top and then Bryson or Tretch. I genuinely believe Tretch will be that big of a difference maker this season and that you just can't justify keeping him off the field. And so I think he'll be the 3rd most impactful wideout in the rotation.
And I guess maybe like what will help him is, to me, Bryson Green's a guy you need, like, if you have another guy who can produce, Green's a guy you need like 3 or 4 times a game for a couple big plays. Like that's his perfect role.
Yeah. Like I think he had a lot of like 3 for 58s last year. And like if he does that, awesome.
So like if he can get that and Tretch can like produce, then we're sitting really good.
Yeah, you just have to hit on one 20+ yard pass per game, pretty much. One ball down the field per game, and then it opens up everything for those guys like Tretch and Pauling.
And how many of those did we see we missed last year? Like
a lot.
I could think of 4 or 5, just in the beginning of the year. Like a couple of them were Skylar Bell were missed time.
Yeah.
Pretty sure the Badgers' first pass play of the season that went for more than 40 yards was in the bowl game.
That's embarrassing.
That was not what we were expecting.
I remember in the Buffalo game, there was like 3 or 4. Where it's like, what the fuck? Also, just because I have the roster pulled up, did not know we have a tight end named Angel Toombs. So add him to my favorite player list.
He's a walk on.
Out of Milwaukee, Rufus King,
wide receiver.
I'm familiar. He's got a lot of tools. I don't know that he's someone that like I would expect to see the field, but that's somebody who you feel really good about as a walk on. Like
I just in a depth chart, he's definitely in the first string for names.
Yeah, I say just his name. Like that's the guy you need him. He's a locker room guy.
Save that for a later date. I think we could probably throw together like an all names team.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll all vote on first and second team all names team for the football team. Yeah, maybe we can reveal that this time next week. So it's time to dive into a conversation I fear could go for a really long time. So I'm gonna ask.
Let me go grab 2 more beers quick.
I'm gonna have to recline.
Don't tell the world you're having another child while I'm gone this time, please.
Loud and clear. So this is going to be a 2-part question, and I want to get everybody's feedback here. So Jason, expectations for the season, what would that look like to you? What would leave you satisfied about where the direction of the program is headed this year? And then just as a fan of the Wisconsin Badgers football program, what is your expectations for the program overall? Like, what do you view as maybe when Fickell, say year 3 rolls around and beyond, what do you expect the program to be doing from that point on?
Yeah, it's such a loaded question just because like
that's why I asked it.
My expectations I feel like are really low this year just because for a number of things, just we're still in that quarterback carousel, I feel like, and the schedule is not very easy this year. So like for me personally, like my expectations or like what I would consider successful is just making a bowl game. Winning 7 games would be, for me, that's awesome. But like long term, I would say next year 3, like I expect the team to be competing for Big Ten championships. Like if they're not within a game or a game or 2, I guess I should even change that because now 14 teams make it the playoffs starting next year. Like we should be one of those fringe playoff teams almost every year.
I mean, I hear that. I think I think largely that's fair. Ryan, I know you're a big expectations guy. You're the reason we're having this conversation. I think it's the right thing to do because we have to set our own expectations for things. So first part, Ryan, what is your expectation? What would leave you feeling good about this season, understanding kind of where we're at in this whole process with Luke Fickell? And then what are your expectations for 3 and beyond? Because I think it's fair to say that from year 3 and beyond, you should be reaching or, scratching the surface of whatever ceiling might be possible.
Right. I think that for me, in my opinion only, not supported by Badger Notes or any of its affiliates, I think the expectations for this year is hitting the over. Now, I know they're not going to look at Vegas. I don't like coaches that talk about Vegas numbers or statistical outputs or any of that. I do. Yeah, I mean, you like coaches that are interpreters for Shohei too.
Hey.
I think the expectations though should be 7 and 5 going the over, just because of the schedule I'm looking at and what you brought back, what you built on the nucleus. I feel anything less than 7 and 5 you're gonna start to question things in the fan base. I don't know that I necessarily would. I would be disappointed that we didn't meet expectations. I think the expectation for me would be 7 and 5. I think realistically, I think there's a path where we could get to 8 and 4. I mean, if everything clicks, I could see like a 9 and 3. I don't see anything more than 9 and 3. The schedule is just not going to allow it. You're only in year 2. You don't have the horses on the defensive line that you need to compete with like the Oregons and the Alabamas right now. But when I think about it from like a more macro for the program, and I say this as a Luke Fickell like diehard at this point, and outside of one season, one could say like, how do you have that belief? But I feel like with him leading the program, he's never going to leave a stone unturned, and he's going to do every single thing he can to make the team better. Will that be the case? Maybe not. But the previous guy we had, which I loved Paul Chris too, we always had the problems with, is he evolving? Is he going for it? Is he doing what he needs to do to be great? Like, if Luke Fickell fails and he goes 5-7, it's not going to be for a lack of trying. So I just put it out there that I'm a huge Luke Fickell fan, and I think he's the guy for the job. I think I'd push back on Jay's expectations of
Fight me then.
Huh?
Fight me then.
I will. But
Jay does
I push
one
back
60 days instant and he starts acting.
Jay walks, he enters every pod. Smells like bitch in here.
I'm gonna have you hold my pocket, Ryan.
Hold my pocket.
Hold my pocket.
The old
Yeah, but
bro, I say that to the guy who's right underneath me at work all the time. I'm like, hey, Pete, why don't you come over here and hold my pocket?
Pause.
Did you buy dinner first?
How often is he underneath you?
I buy him lunch every now and then.
Oh, God.
He's underneath me every day, brother.
Oh, jeez.
Coop's the cheap date, dude.
Hey, fair enough. But I think I would push back, though, on the Big Ten championships, only just because we're going to have, 18 teams? And I don't know how they're going to – unless they go to pods at some level. Like, obviously, the ACC may fall apart at some point, and maybe you get to 24 teams and you got 4 pods of 6. Then, yes, I think you should be competing for the Big Ten championship. But statistically speaking, there's only going to be 2 people playing in the game out of 18. And I'm not good at math, but those aren't great odds.
No, that's fair. But what about – I mean,
Basketball.
what about the playoff, though? Because, I mean, you don't need to play in the Big
No, but I was getting to that part. I think you should be a fringe playoff team. I think your team should week in and week out be a top 25 program. Obviously, if you lose to like Alabama, let's say we start ranked, we lose to Alabama, it's going to knock us out. No harm, no foul. But win a couple games and get back in there. I think we should always try to be in the top 25. When we have really good teams, I want to see us be between 6 and 14. I mean, if you get higher, the better. I think my overall expectations for the program is to always play on fire, always play hard, and like from a number, like I feel like you can tell that. Like Dylan was saying earlier, like you could tell the product is better even if the wins aren't there. I don't like going into games where they play somebody and it's like you used to be able to look at the schedule. You'd see Western Michigan and South Dakota. It's like I don't even have to go there. I'm gonna get hammered at the game before I go because I know the Badgers are gonna win by 40. And then when Ohio State comes here at a night game and you're like, well, I'm going to get hammered because I know we're not going to win, but let's just go have a good time. And I feel like Luke Fickell has the charisma and the skill set to build the team to win those games. So for me, I think the expectations should be, like I said, hover around the top 25. When you have a really good team, your deep team, I think you should be in like the 8 to 14, maybe better, depending on how the schedule lines up. But I think when you look at your big games, I think you need to at least be, and this is more of statistical metrics. I don't really care about yards per game, defense efficient. I'm a wins and losses guy. And I feel like if you're playing top 25 teams, you need to be 500 in top 25 games. And you need to be 2/3. You need to win 2 out of 3 trophy games a year. You don't need to clean sweep. But you either need to beat Iowa and Minnesota and lose to Nebraska or any combination of that 3. I think you need to at least have 2 out of those 3 trophies a year. Because if you're not getting to the playoff and you're losing trophy games, that's going to be a bad look.
All right. So for you, who's a regular season doesn't matter kind of guy, say the football team loses in the Big Ten championship game and the basketball team wins the regular season Big Ten title, but gets bounced in the tournament. What's like more successful to you?
So let me repeat that back to you. So they get to the Big Ten championship game
and lose in football.
But there's 18 of them, and they get to the top 2 and they're playing for a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, or we win the regular season in basketball and don't win the tournament, like the Big Ten tournament.
Does the basketball team win it outright, or is it going to be a 3-way share?
It'll be outright, so I don't have to hear you. Well, they shared a fucking title.
Well, I mean, they did share it with
Player hater of the year, Ryan.
And they lost the head-to-head.
They shared a title. Still a title, brother.
Yeah, but they lost the head-to-head to Illinois. But I don't know. That's actually a really good question.
I know.
I would say success-wise, I think I would probably actually take the football being in the championship game just because the odds of getting there is much harder. Like winning the regular season, to me, isn't as impactful as getting to the Big Ten championship game when there's only 2 teams. Now, if the comparison was the football team got to the Big Ten championship and lost, and the Badgers got to the Big Ten tournament title and lost, I think you'd be even there. But I think I'm always going to defer towards the football because the margin for error is so much higher. Like in basketball, you can lose 5 conference games, finish 15-5, and win the regular season. You lose 2 or 3 games in conference in the Big Ten, you're finishing 10th.
Fair. No, it's just a question I had to ask since we're talking about expectations.
Either or.
Before we pivot to you, Coop, I got to ask, Ryan, if you had to guess in Luke Fickell's career what his record is against top 50 teams 50? by Sargeran ratings, that's kind of your Ken Palm, if you will, of college football. What would you assume his record is?
We should all
in 10 games. I'm looking at the answer.
I love this question.
In 10 games, Ryan, what would you?
Because I know he set me up to look stupid. So
no. It's not. That's not the point here. I just want to show, maybe illustrate how far we would have to go.
Well, I also have to acknowledge that if he's playing ranked teams and he's at Cincinnati, he probably doesn't have the better roster. So I can think of a couple games he's lost. I would say if he's played 10 games, I'd say he's 4-6.
3-7.
3-7.
So he was 2-8.
Fire him.
I do not have the rating. I do not have that record with last year on, so presumably it would be lower, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. And that's not meant to be a slight, because I, like you, Ryan, and I will get to in a minute. Coop's gonna be going first. I am a guy who believes in what Luke Fickell can do for this program.
Well, he made a playoff. You can't scoff at that at Cincinnati.
Which seems wild, 2-8 in the top 50, but still made a playoff. That to me, those things seem like they're mutually exclusive.
And that team had a ton of NFL players.
7 drafted, I believe.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie, Ryan. I'm pretty sure that number is actually 9. From his college football playoff team, it was tied with LSU for the most in that draft. The year that they went to the college football playoff. Yeah, doesn't suck. So, Coop, so now it is your turn to answer the loaded question. What are your expectations for this season? What would leave you feeling good about the direction of things? And where do you think the ceiling is for this program in 3 and beyond?
If they win 7 games this year, I'll feel good. If they win 8 or 9, I'll be fucking ecstatic.
Marshawn. He'll get without people under him if they get to 9 wins.
Marshawn, what are your expectations?
I'm pretty sure he just got into your toilet wipes, bro.
And then mine for the 3 years. Hi, buddy. Are, I guess basically I'm kind of in lockstep with Ryan and Jason. Like, be a fringe playoff team. To me, that's making the tournament maybe a little more difficult, I will say, in the landscape of football nowadays, and especially because it's the NCAA tournament, they're probably going to expand to like 72 teams at some point.
Should never do that, but they will.
Yeah, no, I hate it, but yeah. But no, to me, be a fringe like playoff team, because I think, and we've talked about this before, I think we're all in agreement. If you have the right 3 losses, you can make the playoff. As long as you have enough quality wins.
With the way things are expanding, yeah, I think, almost like how the men's NCAA tournament committee votes, like they're going to vote on the body of your work. And if those 9 wins, include some heavy hitters, like that absolutely should outweigh the team who goes 10-2, but didn't play anyone.
And because to me, like, my expectations for the Badgers, I feel like have always been a great season for us was let's make like the Rose Bowl. That's a great season. Yeah. But a really, really good season is a New Year's Six Bowl. And then so you're a top 12 team. And to me, that's basically the fringe playoff right now. So if we sneak into one of those, I'm good, man. But if we win 7 games, or say we win 6 games this year, or even 7, and then we come back next year in year 3 and we only win 7 games, then we're going to have to start having some conversations. And I get the counterpoint to that would be, okay, maybe it's only year 4 or year 5, depending on how you want to look at it. You made some great points about kind of year 0 last week, Ryan. But people are going to argue between that and guard. who's getting more leeway. I just think the sports are so much different. Where in football, if it's year 5 and you're still only winning 6 or 7 games, then we got some fucking problems.
And I'd be there right there with you. Like I said, I'm the biggest Fickell guy. If he's 6-7 wins, then I think we do have to have the conversation if we're being objective.
I think overall, we're all in a pretty similar place. I mean, my expectation for this season is to win 7 games. You need to by record, be as good as you were last year. Period. I feel like I can live with a team that wins 7 games, but the product looks so much better and more clear, and we have an identity. Because last year, I don't think we had an identity on either side of the ball. But you can tell a clear identity, the way that they intend to win games, the way that their systems are supposed to look, with the players that are supposed to execute them. I can feel better about that if that's what we see and we win 7 games and we just had a brutal schedule, but like we were in some of those. And what I would need to see to feel good about this season is 8 wins. If I see 8 wins this year, that means we won a game that we probably shouldn't have or weren't expected to. And I think it's important, just from a coaching standpoint, to show that like that is a huge advantage on our sideline, that it won't always be about talent, that we have somebody capable of overcoming those margins talent-wise. I need to see us get to 8 to feel really good about things. I can still feel good at 7, but if we hit 8 to me with this schedule in year 2 with the competition they brought in, if it looks the product itself looks substantially different in a positive way, I will feel great about this program exiting 2024 if they manage to win 8 games. I for this season, I would feel great about that.
One thing that just bothers me, and maybe I'm just being unfair and dying on my Greg Gard hill, but like people are like, the Badgers win 6 or 7 games, like we'll be happy, like it'll be okay, like tough schedule. Do people not forget we had one of the toughest schedules in basketball this year? Like I get we had that stretch in February, yeah, but like no one's taking that into account when we're talking about Greg Gard, but we're going to take it to account when we're talking about Luke Fickell because it's his second year. Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong here, or is that not fair?
And again, like I'll always, I think from a standpoint of expectation, which is what we're talking about, like what you're saying is fair.
That word's been a huge buzzword on this podcast.
Yes, I think that is fair. I don't like to compare sports. I
don't, but that's what's happening.
To me, it's not often worthwhile, but at least we are today establishing what ours are for this season and beyond, to know like where we're coming from emotionally in the future when these games actually do transpire, kind of where that place of emotion is coming from. And I think that it's in and of itself is valuable. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Like fans are always going to compare sports. That is what it is
for sure. So I think my long-term expectations being year 3 and beyond is pretty much right where you guys have always been at. I've been told that I'm complacent in my expectations and I don't want enough, but I do not think the University of Wisconsin, and I don't think this is a hot take, but people seem to feel like it is. I don't think the University of Wisconsin in men's basketball or the football program, I don't see either one of them winning a national championship. To me, that is not a realistic ceiling for either program.
Me too.
I genuinely do not believe that. And
Dylan, we're an above average program, I feel like.
I don't get me wrong. I think that like we have had substantial success, and that we should expect to continue to have that kind of success because we've built ourselves into that. I just don't think that a winning a title is a realistic thing. Like, do we all want that? Obviously, yeah. I want them to win every game.
It'd be the greatest day of my life.
Yeah, I want them to win every game that they play every time. I don't care who's on the sideline. I'm going to be rooting for them. I'll be their biggest fan. That's just what it is. But I think that my expectation for them in year 3 and beyond would be to, kind of what Ryan was saying, like be around that top 25 when things are good. Maybe once every 3 years we push further into that 15 and on. And my expectation would be once every 3 years. I'm not even saying you have to make the playoff, but you have to once every 3 years for me probably be in that conversation. Like I think, and I think to some degree we all really liked Paul Chryst. I think we saw Paul Chryst take the University of Wisconsin basically to its more modern day height. I mean, we were 43 yards away from a college football playoff with 4 teams. I mean, I think that's about as good as it could possibly get for me. And I would love to be wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong more than me. I'm just saying, like, I don't think heights beyond that are realistic. If that ever happens, I'll be the happiest motherfucker in the world. I won't give a shit about being right.
No,
we will.
We're not Alabama.
So I guess that's where I'm at short and long term. I don't view us in that same light, but I do view us in a very positive one, like a top. I think if you want to combine the programs, and this is a conversation for another day, I think we are a top 20 university in terms of offering football and basketball. I think that is a really great place to be. I think they are competitive in all of the worlds that matter. We recruit well enough. We have enough NIL that like we maintain the core of our rosters. I think that's super important, especially in an era like this. Not diminishing the program in any capacity. I just don't know how realistic it is to take another step and be there every year. I don't think we can be there every year.
Here's a question, and I hate to bring them up again because my hate for them runs deep. Who has more expectations as a football program, Wisconsin or Nebraska?
Nebraska.
I think so too.
They expect to win national titles without making a bowl game.
Yeah. To me, I don't like that. I'm with Dylan. Like, I don't expect national titles. I get
they
it.
also have the historical pedigree, though, that Wisconsin doesn't necessarily have.
Well, yeah, but that was
agreed. I agree. 25, 30 years ago.
All of those things are true. I think it is also Nebraska. I think once you reach that pinnacle, and I'm not trying to drag another sport into this, even though that's what I'm going to do, but like it's kind of the Bo Ryan parallel where like you make those Final Fours, and so that's people are going to expect that.
People get delusional.
Well, we need to get back to those, and I think
cronies get delusional.
I think that's where Nebraska's at, and they kind of deserve to be there, but also like you're pretty fucking far removed from that too. So like,
yeah, Dylan, I think you're gonna get absolutely fucking torched in the comments about your expectations, because I think everybody is going to. I think saying like top 20, top 25, like I think a lot of people expect that every single year on like to be better than that. I think people will expect the Badgers to be, in that 15 to 20 range at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to wait for the comments, I can torch them now if you want.
Do it, Ryan. Dylan, I'm here.
It's like we didn't say much different things, but you just saying that one little thing, I'm kind of with you, Ryan. I'm like, that seems a little low. I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing, the reason I would push back on it is because with the Pac-12 going away, the ACC about to disband in a little bit, there really is only 2 conferences. You could look at both conferences and say between the SEC and the Big Ten and eliminate probably 3, 4, 5 from each conference. So that means you have 20 of the heaviest hitters in college football in the top 20. Like you kind of need to be in there. So when you talk about fringe playoff one every 3 years, like for me, my expectation would be is fringe playoff team every other year, because you need to kind of be kind of what Jay was saying. You kind of need to be in that mix. Just because who else is going to be ranked above you? Group of 5 schools? Even if you lose a couple games, you're going to be ahead of like the James Madison football teams if you're playing like 4 or 5 top 25 teams every year, 5 top 25 teams. But I think the question I would have, though, to pose it back to Coop, because he tried to slide a little guard talk in there for me, that I can't let it slide. But I think there's a big difference about being fringe playoff team and making the tournament. I don't think those 2 things are the same. I don't think we're suggesting.
I said that. Yeah.
No, I know, but that was my point. Is I wanted to say that when you asked, would it be the same? Would Fickell be getting the same heat if he was going 6-6 and 7-5? I think he should, and I think that's kind of like when guard like has a decent season. I think when you were talking about like we had the toughest schedule this year, you're right, but I think it's all about how you lose, and I think that's kind of like Dylan's point is like, what does the product look like? Because in the very beginning of the season, it looked good. And then the back end, it looked like the wheels fall off. So if I fast forward it to football and I try to compare the 2 sports, if Fickell starts out somehow wins Alabama, he starts 4-0, and we finish the season 7-5. Let's say we start 4-0 and we beat Alabama. Hold on, where's USC? Let's say we start the season 5-0. You beat Alabama and USC, and you finish the season 8-4. Is that a successful season if you started 5-0?
I sure think so.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a body of
Even
work
though the back
every
end
time.
fell out.
I'm looking at a
because
body of work.
I think the back end of our schedule is very difficult.
I
So
think
to
at
me,
the
that
end of the
reminds
day,
me of Colorado, where they started hot and it just completely.
But the schedule, but they're not as
end of
good
the day,
as
at the end of the
Wisconsin.
day, you are what your sports reference page says. You won and lost that many games. You hit that percentage of shots. Like, you are what sports reference says you are. And if we are 8-4 and with a win over a program like Alabama, and name one other relevant, program on this list, I'm feeling good about that. I'm not saying that like I'm going to feel great, if they, fucking fuck it away at the last 3 weeks of the season, 4 weeks of the season. But if they win 8, when I came into the season feeling like I would be fine at 7, and feel great about 8, it's not going to change just because somewhere in there something went different. Like, it's not, I don't know.
I also think there's like levels to it, because like if they start 4-0 but beat Alabama and USC, my expectations 100% change. That I think that I would expect or
For
hope
this
that
season.
that I would expect or hope that they make the playoff starting 4-0. If they didn't and they went 8-4, I think I would be upset in the moment. But then I think when I would look at that season collectively, I would still consider it a pretty successful season overall.
I agree.
I think our expectations just shift throughout the season.
But that's the part I worry about, is when we shift our expectations, that's how we set ourselves up for unrealistic expectations. Like, a perfect example would be the basketball. They started so well in that stretch that everyone just had, we'll have an okay team, we'll make the tournament. Then the expectations ramped up because they had such a good stretch that ultimately all you left was the bottom to fall out. And even me, who is very critical of Guard, can look at the basketball season, and like, now that I've had time to process it, I could say that was a good season.
It was.
But
I think that's fandom.
You
I think
can't
that's a
look
little
at
bit of
it
fandom.
2 days after the tournament and see that you went 2-9 down the stretch. Like, I get what you're saying, but I feel like not all 8-4s are created equal. So it's like, if you feel great if we're 8-4, but if we get to 8-4 when we started 4-0 and 5-0, I'm not going to feel the same about that 8-4.
Well, it's like Colorado.
That's totally fair. I'm just, when it's the dust has settled, I'm gonna feel good about 8-4. But yeah, in the moment, when every single game, no matter the opponent, we're hoping, expecting, wanting to win, like, you're not gonna feel great about it. But I think I try to save most of my overarching evaluation for when it's all said and done, and I'm gonna feel good about 8-4 when the season is over, even if there are moments throughout the season where I'm feeling less good about that. I think you're right. Like, they're not all made the same.
As far as you said, like the Colorado thing, like, we all drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid. Shadur is fucking awesome. Travis Hunter's dope. But everyone knew last year by week 3, it's like, this team's not that good. Like, they're beating up on bad teams. And then everyone was proven right. And I mean, they went to shout out my boys, CSU, but they went to double overtime with Colorado State. When you watch that game, it's like, all right, it's Colorado program. Yeah.
What do you guys think will be my equivalent this year in football to an AJ Storr season-changing dunk?
Yeah.
That happened 8 times this year. So, like, maybe a Hunter Wooler sack, Hunter Wooler pick. I don't know. Something like that. But
a 50-yard pass play that goes for a touchdown.
one 50-yard touchdown.
And we don't wait 13 weeks.
Season-changing.
When we talk about expectations, we talk about like 8-4. Like, that would be good, 7-5. And this is more like emotional, Ryan, coming out. But do you ever there was like I think it was on The Office. They said, Jim Halpert, I think, did his own rendition. But it's like, I wish I knew the good times we were in before we were out of them.
Andy Bernard.
That's Andy Bernard.
Andy, my bad.
Get your office shit right.
My bad.
Yeah. But you've come to the wrong place to misquote The Office, brother. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, that's big facts.
when I think about like
I wish you knew you were in the good old days, or like when you were in the good old days
before you've actually left them.
Yeah,
because like, it almost feels like, and I know it's not, because when you have to look at it holistically, you realize it's not. But when you look at it, and we went to our very first Cotton Bowl, went to our very first Orange Bowl and won them both. We went to a Rose Bowl, and like the other Rose Bowls, we lost, but we lost to 1 point to a top 5 pick in Justin Herbert.
went to a Duke's Mayo Bowl.
He's pretty good, but it's like, and then it's kind of fallen off to like the Las Vegas Bowl, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, or the Mayo Bowl, like all these different things. And it's like, it feels like if Luke Fickell has a really good year, he could be 9-3 and be fringe playoff. And if we've rewound time to just a few years ago, 9-3, I mean, Paul Chris went 9-4 the year before he was fired. So it's like, to my mind, it's hard for me to process, because it's like, I'm used to like, we got to get 10 wins, baby. 10 wins. Now it's like 6 wins. Hey, it shows an improvement. It's like 6 wins. I'd burn the buildings down.
Yeah, I think that's your whole point about not all seasons being made equal, because with the way this is all changing, the way we evaluate these numbers are going to look really different than they have in the past. I mean,
100%.
let's pretend, these college football playoff rules existed throughout the entire Christ era. Like we go to the playoff like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And a shot RIP to the Big Ten West. They were good to us.
Yeah, they were the best.
Gonna talk about that shit when I'm fucking old, but at this point, 8-9 win seasons are going to hold a lot more weight than they would have in 2016-17. 8 win season is just like that was kind of the expectation.
Well, now too, I feel like with our schedule, like there's different types of 8 win seasons depending on who you beat.
No, I don't disagree, but I'm talking about like, look at the people that put butts in seats at Camp Randall. They're used to seeing we know all the nuances of recruiting and NIL. I'm thinking about the people that have season tickets and just show up and want to watch the boys, and they're used to like Doak Walker winners and 10-2 and 11-1 and 12-0, and then it's 8-4. Like, this is a damn good team. It's like, no, 8-4 got Bo Pelini fired. 8-4 got Tracy Claeys at Minnesota fired. 8-4 gets you fired, but now it's like, it's just the barometer of like where we're at. It's just
times are changing, brother.
I know, but it's like, it makes me feel 900 years old, and my brain can't process it. Because to me, 8-4, I know in my brain, in my heart of hearts, that should be a good season. But I hear 8-4, and I say, really, we can't do. Like, I used to see 10-win seasons, and it's like, I know it's not capable really anymore.
It's not the same,
but it's like, it's when you look back, like Dylan said, you look back at the record books, you're gonna see all these 10-win seasons and then be like, oh, this Luke Fickell era wasn't very good, and it's like, there's not a lot of room for nuance in numbers.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I appreciate that to some degree. We're kind of all in a very similar wheelhouse. Like we understand where the times, how they're changing, where everything is headed, and kind of where we hope to be in that pecking order, both realistically and aspirationally. At the end of the day, it's April 10. We're just starving for some football right now. Ryan, you're obviously the leading authority on the matter. How many days until kickoff?
143, baby.
So just around the corner, just a few sleeps away.
Yeah, if you're a bear.
Be there in no time.
So, I thought we'd try a little something different here for our closing segments. We're going to do our big dog of the week. What are we doing here? I was kind of thinking this week we actually execute both of them. That's what I'm shooting for.
Expecting you to end the recording right now and not saying anything.
That's what I'm shooting for personally. So, an hour and 18 minutes here. We're going to push a little positivity. Ryan, who is your big dog of the week?
Oh, hold on, boys. Before we get into that real quick, winner of our NCAA tournament bracket, who will be getting a $100 Quick Trip gift card. I am going to absolutely butcher this name. Arianto Steak. Whoever you are, send one of the boys a DM. If you listen to the episode, we'll put some out on Twitter. Let us know how to get the gift card to you, and congratulations on winning the bracket pool.
Thank you all for everyone who participated. Obviously, I was too absent-minded to even throw my hat in the ring. So, I
Well, you and I
tip of
did,
the cap.
you and I did really, really well on the bowl game. So
Oh, yeah, that went disgusting. Put my picks in, and it was like 93% of America disagrees with you. I'm right. Go on my gut, baby.
There you go.
Ryan, who's your big dog of the week?
Big dog of the week. I mean, he's been talked about a lot, so it's probably not going to surprise anybody that's following Wisconsin football. But Charlie Jarvis, just absolutely having himself a spring. Got an interception. Damn near took someone's head off on a crossing pattern and a thud drill. Like, the boy's showing up. Like, a little Jim Leonard in him just decided he's going to show up and just start wreaking havoc as a safety. And you love to see it. You got plenty of older guys like Hunter and Kamoe. Even Austin Brown's been here a couple years. Max Lofi, I'm not sure if he's a safety or not, but just seeing Charlie out there getting some work, and not only getting the work but just capitalizing on it. Just awesome to see. Big dog of the week, Charlie Jarvis, coming out of nowhere, making plays, cashing checks.
Yeah, I love that one because I wouldn't maybe say that he was the best player at practice on Saturday, but I thought he made the most impactful plays. Like, he had a couple big hits. He had at least 2 interceptions, just a guy who kept coming up in really big ways. And you always love to see that from when you walk on. So I definitely appreciate the Charlie Jarvis shout out. That was well deserved.
I don't know if you boys have ever seen the show on Netflix, I Think You Should Leave. It's one of my favorite shows. But they have a skit on the first season where it's like a baby pageant, and one of the babies' names is Harley Jarvis, and it makes me think of him every time. And the one line in the show, there's like, "Fuck you, Harley Jarvis. You're a piece of fucking shit." Like, they boo him every time he comes on the screen, and it's just a little fucking baby. And so that just makes me think of him, and it cracks me up. So I love the guy.
Coop, you got a big dog of the week, or should we be expecting a litter?
What do you think, brother?
Line them up? Who we got?
Clear the schedule.
All right. First off, we got the Pittsburgh Pirates, baby. Big dogs of the week. Dude.
You've been itching to say big dogs of the week for a couple of years now.
I have. I really have.
I'm excited for you to have this moment.
But hey, if the boys are bopping, don't come knocking, baby. Pirates off to a hot start. This is our fucking year. I think we've made. Shut up, Jay. I think we've made the playoffs 3 times since I have been born. So really hoping for that 4th year.
Speaking like 2014.
Oh, we did do it when Clutch won the MVP. We had real deal fucking Neil Walker, the Pittsburgh kid. Yeah, Pedro Alvarez.
Coop was Neil Walker's biggest fan.
Like, still am, dude. I got his jersey. I just watched his jersey. I wore it the other day. I fucking love Neil Walker, dude.
0% surprised.
Yeah. In one of my greatest moments on social media was my parents got me a Neil Walker jersey for Christmas, which, by the way, they didn't just make those. They had to go through like the customized thing and get the Walker 18. So shout out my parents because like they knew how big of a Neil Walker fan I was.
Can't wait to revisit this when they're 12 back at the break.
Fuck you. Let me have this moment, god damn it, Jason.
Which you're absolutely doing, by the way.
Yeah, it's gonna. I know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen, but let me have this right now.
Damn, Jay, I went AJ's store coming through the lane on it.
But
season changing dunk right
there. Big dog changing dunk.
But when I got the jersey for Christmas, I like tweeted a picture of it and added Neil Walker. Dude responded to me in like 45 seconds and was like, "Hell yeah, man! Merry Christmas! Like, glad you're a fan," or something like that. So I'll always remember that, dude. Shout out Neil Walker. And shout out the Pirates, baby. The boys are bopping. I'm so excited right now. Hopefully I can get out to Pittsburgh and catch a couple games this year. My second big dog of the week, Pirates, they're my love, but I also do enjoy the Brewers being in Wisconsin. Christian Yelich, boys.
He's back.
You want to talk about being all the way fucking back. Another home run tonight.
I would like to say he's been back for a hot minute. Like, he had a great
He's been
year
unlucky.
last year. He was just batting leadoff, which doesn't make sense.
Well, and when you look at all like the analytics, like he was getting pretty unlucky last year.
His like last 130 games, he's batting like 290 plus. I mean, I think he's been back. I mean,
but just to start the season like this, you're like, oh, he's back, baby. He's an opposite field fucking dingers. Yeah. So, I mean, Christian Yelich is my favorite player, has been for a long time. I'll never forget when I absolutely fleeced someone in our Dynasty Baseball League and traded him Giancarlo Stanton for Christian Yelich and like 5 other players. And that was the year I traded him the year right before Christian Yelich won the MVP. So,
Fleeced.
maybe I know ball. I don't know.
Coop, I gotta dive in. I didn't plan this big dog, but you just sparked one. I'm gonna throw it right back to you. But my big dog of the week is gonna be Giancarlo Stanton, and for this reason. So I just saw this week that since 2017, he still leads the Marlins. Like
I saw that
he
too.
hit 59 dingers in 2017. And he left in 2017. And since then, 2017 until present day, nobody has as many home runs as he hit over that entire span that he did that year.
Dude.
So Stanton is my big dog of the week for that reason. That was fucking wild.
That's one of those crazy stats, especially when you see him in New York right now hitting like 0.08 with like 2 home runs.
I'm like 80% sure that Mike Fiers let a pitch slip and ended that season.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the one where when he was pitching for the Crew, he let a pitch slip and it hit Stanton in the face and ended his season when he had 59 in August.
Also, big dog Mike Myers did 2 no-hitters in his MLB career. None for the Brewers. That was great.
So anyway, Coop, the rest of your litter. Who we got?
I got the guy who owns Tyson Chicken for getting John Calipari and just being like, how much NLI
He had a standing ovation from a sold out stadium today.
I can't talk, but how much NIL money do you need? Like, exactly. That was next to my notes. A donor got a standing ovation at the press conference where the coach got introduced. And then John Calipari fired off one of the great. This is a Lane Kiffin. We should call him Quiffin. Lane Quiffin. Dude, I've had fucking 7 beers during the podcast already, boys. Yeah. But there you go. When Calipari was like, I talked to the team and
there is no team.
I was like, holy fuck, dude. That was like when Dion came in and was like, you should just enter the transfer portal, like all of you.
I'm bringing my luggage with me.
And it's Louis.
I think he's gonna pull a few of his boys because 3 of his commits have already walked back.
And one entered the portal and signed with an agent. So entered the draft.
Shout out to Tyson Chicken guy though for just being like, you know what? I want Arkansas to be super duper good at basketball. Here's an unlimited amount of money. Get John Calipari. I respect the fuck out of that. And then I got the just women's basketball in total. Big dogs of the week. Awesome Elite 8. Awesome Final 4. Good championship game. I mean, it got almost 19 million viewers.
Yeah.
One of the most watched basketball game, or like the most watched basketball game ever.
I think it beat out the men's national.
Yeah, it did. And then also big dog of the week, because I watched the Braedyn Tarasi show, and when they had Sue Bird and Kelsey Plum at the same time, I think I barked at my TV for 5 straight minutes. So give me all the bathwater there.
They're haters.
I don't give a fuck, dude. They can hate me all they want. That shit turns me on, dude.
No, they hate the new player.
Coop
What are we doing here?
I do.
All these old heads hating on it.
Coop's love language is being bullied.
Yeah. In the words of the Notorious B.I.G., I throw dicks to dykes, and Sue Bird could bully me all she wants, brother. Let me tell you that.
I don't think she's a dyke.
She's partners with Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems like a perfect time to transition.
And then my last big
he's
dog.
Not done. He ain't done.
No, my last big dog of the week, the biggest of them all, baby. Ryan, you're gonna love this one.
Oh god.
Fucking Terrell Suggs. You guys see this shit?
Oh
no.
Bro, he got
on in Arizona right now.
Yep. He got an altercation with some dude at Starbucks. And I guess this guy started like fucking cursing at him. Who knows what he said. And then Terrell Suggs challenged the guy to a fight, pulled a gun on him.
Oh.
Called him a pussy ass cracker and told him, I'll kill your bitch ass. And then obviously got arrested.
Allegedly.
And then he had
in America these days.
Yep. And then they posted his mugshot I'm telling you what, brother, his teeth have gotten 3 times smaller and his gums have gotten 8 times bigger. Let's just say that. All gum team for like the last decade, dude. Trail Suggs. But I just thought that was hilarious, and it was right up Trail Suggs' alley. And also, who are you at Starbucks to like come at Terrell Suggs? That dude's a fucking psycho.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's not small. Yeah.
He's enormous. He was a defensive end / edge.
Yeah, like you said, he was big for that position, like 6'5", 6'6", like what, 260? 255 maybe?
In his good days. He's probably
a guy I'm not itching to mess with at a fucking Starbucks.
I wouldn't mess with him.
Like, dude, I'll get my black coffee when they serve it. You handle your business.
What I envision happening is the scene in Zach and Miri Make a Porno. You guys seen that movie? Was and where he's like, I'll take my coffee black, and it's Craig Robinson behind the counter. He's like, can't you see we're talking white? To me, like, that's what started it, and then Terrell Suggs pulled the gun on the guy. So
see,
that's the official story.
Yeah, you were here first. Frozen Pizza Cooper news.
I could see that guy saying he could block him, or was talking shit about his career.
Yeah,
like, I bet I could block you. Can't get past me, and it's just like, all right, dude, I'm trying to get my fucking latte.
Yeah, guy's a borderline Hall of Famer, dude. Why are you fucking with him?
I'm trying to get my drink. Leave me alone.
So, at an hour and 30 minutes, we're gonna do what I was unable to do a week ago. we are.
Just imagine if we actually recorded the basketball discussion we had before the podcast.
Yeah, we talked for 45, 50 minutes.
I would say y'all are being done a disservice because I'm pretty sure the 40 best minutes of conversation we had happened before we ever hit record. So y'all have been shortchanged to no end. A lot of conversation has probably been avoided purposefully because we've already had it.
The podcast gets dropped later tomorrow. It's because I'm going to bed immediately after.
Yeah, it's 11:30, dude. I wake up at 5.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, hey, we're gonna bring it home here. I'm hoping we're gonna do this under 2 hours. Ryan, what are we doing here? What are we doing here moment of the week?
Well, that kind of ties back to our conversation earlier about, college sports, transfer portal, all this. Just what are we doing here? Like, just with the sport itself. Like, I feel every day I get closer and closer to not understanding why I still love the sport. Like, I love the Badgers. I love the basketball team, despite all my criticism. I love the wrestling team. I love all the Wisconsin teams, and vice versa. I love that every college player has the ability to market themselves on name, image, likeness. But we're in this portal age where rosters are getting destroyed. Fan bases are starting to get apathetic. There was always the have and the have-nots, but now it's so clear to, when they talk about this super league that they want to do with relegation and all that stuff. And like, it all sounds great, but it's also like, what are we doing here, college sports, in the sense of like, if you're going to charge premiums to go to your games, to support your teams, like you want us to pay the NIL for the players, why are we not just supporting pros? Like, I look at it like, if I have only a certain amount of disposable income, why would I go spend it to watch the Badger? And I'm a Cardinals fan, but we'll leave that out of it. So let's just pretend I was a Packers fan. So the expenses were about similar. If I could spend $500 to go see Wisconsin, Alabama, or I could go to a Packers game and I know all the Packers players because they're under contract and they've been there, versus college kind of seems like a rotating door that people don't even fulfill 4 years anymore. I just feel like what are we doing here, in the sense of like, I feel like a lot of the beautiful things about the game are getting ripped apart, and it makes me sad because it's no longer this pageantry. It's more of AAU style mercenary. And it's like, I love that the boys are getting paid and the girls are getting paid. Like, Caitlin Clark should make every nickel she can. She filled every damn arena she walked into and will continue to fill. So it's like, I don't want them to not get money, but it's just this wild west of the transfer portal has like really made me question how much I love the sport. Because like, the best thing is, like, when I was growing up, you could watch teams and it was not necessarily the one and done era, but it's like, you could watch those Reggie Bush years. You could watch, like we were talking earlier, those Steph Curry years. Like you got to be invested in teams. And now it's like, You got guys that are playing for Miami that are 27 years old on their 9th year. You got people like JT Daniels that was on 5 teams in 5 years, and I feel like we're losing the fabric of the sport, and it just makes me sad. So what are we doing here, college football? Like, let's get this figured out so we don't lose something we all love.
Well, they should have figured it out 10 years ago.
Yeah, the NCAA stands for Non-Caring Assholes of America.
Yeah,
like, I don't care that whole goes.
They thought they could forever get away with treating their and student athletes like indentured servants, basically. Like, here's a scholarship and room and board, and then make us $1 billion.
I think it's worse it's weirder maybe in basketball, just because like I know that they have one and done, so it's not super uncommon for like the really good team, Kentucky's and Duke's, to like turn over a roster like crazy from year to year. But like, I think now that it's impacting Wisconsin, where it's like there's potential to have almost 3-4 new guys every year because people are transferring out, is when it's like they gotta do something with, like you said earlier, having 2-year deals or 3-year contracts. Yeah, you have to, because it's just. You just can't have guys.
We all knew this a decade ago.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm with you a little bit, Ryan.
But I agree. Like, it would be nice to have contracts, but if you're going to have contracts and you're no longer, I mean, it's not been.
Then you got to have salary caps, right? And then you got to have. It's just.
But then what? Then at the end of the day, what if you're just going to become an entertainment venture?
That's what they've always been.
No, I understand. I'm not saying they're not, but if you're just going to be like literally clear as day that this is entertainment, why is there a school component? Like, why can't they just be like minor league football? Like, if you're 27, why do you need to go to grad school? Why don't you just come play for the Badgers? We'll pay you $100,000. Like, why? I mean, I don't want to bring up the Mormons, but like and BYU, a lot of those
drag the Mormons into this.
I have to.
We're soaking. Now we're soaking.
Guys, a lot of those guys go on like missions, and they don't come back from their missions, and they're older adults. They're married. They're playing football at 25, 26, 27 years old. It's like, should all of college football just be the 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds? It seems like why do we have a school component if it's just an entertainment venture? And we've always known it's been an entertainment venture, but it's always had that fabric of like, oh, these are student athletes. Like, they should have been paid a long time ago. I don't dispute that.
But that's like, if we start doing contracts and salary caps, then the schools basically, to me, turn into like entities like the Packers would be or the Cowboys would be.
Well, and that's why I've heard a lot of rumors they're trying to bring in public what's the word I'm looking for? Private equity. They're trying to bring in private equity, where a lot of these people are going to be like that booster at Arkansas. Like, it doesn't matter if you have an athletic director or a school president. That guy runs your entire school.
Bro, Saudi Arabia is about to run half the SEC if they let that shit happen.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's like, once you start allowing private equity in and you become an entertainment.
We're going to have live football, dude.
But, I mean, it's not that far away if you think about it.
No, it's not.
Right.
Like I said, this could have been solved. That's what irritates me. And that's why I'm still going to watch. I'm going to watch no matter what. Yeah. And I'm not upset. I'm with you, Ryan. It was nice to be like, hey, we got this kid for 3-4 more years. Can't wait to see him develop, instead of worrying, oh, he showed promise, he's going to transfer. Like, I get that kind of ruins the aura of college sports. And professional sports, you get it. There's it's how it's always been. There's contracts. A lot of them are fake. They don't
move as much because they're under contract unless you're like a free agent back at the end of the roster.
Yeah.
You're playing year to year. Like, even the NFL isn't as transient.
Yeah. And it can be frustrating, but it's the way it is. And like I said, it could have been fixed. And that's why I don't care. Like, people want to complain about it, but they complain about the players transferring. It's not their fault they finally got rights. Like, if the NCAA would have corrected this, if they would have had any fucking foresight and listened to people on the outside, this could have all been different, all been solved, and could have been the same, or maybe not the same, but close to the same as the college football people loved and were maybe more loyal to, as far as fan base goes and school wise goes, as they are now, because there's just no rules. Like, the NCAA,
they might have struck a balance of some kind.
Yeah. Anytime the NCAA goes to court now, one, they should never go to court because they're going to lose.
They lose every one.
They're not going to fucking win. They just can't. And
the
a decade ago, it would have been easier.
Is we'd like to not pay these people. We'd like to profit a
Yeah,
whole bunch.
billions of dollars.
We'll put a roof over their head. Thoughts? And then they counter with logic, and they're like, yeah, y'all lose. Like,
we might take that roof away if we get a better recruit next year.
No, I mean, that's the whole thing. This was all preventable. But here, this is the reality of where we're at. I'm going to be tuning in regardless of the product. I think all of your points are totally fair, Ryan. But you got me. Yeah, at this point, you got me. I got to fill my Saturdays. I love the Badgers, and I'm going to hold on to what it used to be, even if it's never again what it was.
Well, the good thing for us is
that sucks. It sucks.
Unlike the younger generation, we did all grow up rooting for these teams since we could fucking understand what was happening even before that. And so, I mean, I guess to defensive Ryan, like maybe your kid's in what, 5th grade, Ryan?
Yeah.
Like to him, it's a way different experience. And I feel like maybe that's where it can get like skewed, where
like you're not going to have that connective fabric is your fan bases, all these fan bases. And I'm not saying it's the player's fault. I'm just talking about just kind of the byproduct is your love and your fabric is going to kind of wash away. Because like my son, like if he's watching a player, like let's say last year, my son loves Braylon Allen. I'm tough on Braylon Allen, but I love him too. He's a great player. He did great things for us. But if he went to Michigan, my son was going to want to watch Michigan games.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very similar in the NBA. Like people follow players. Like that's what college has become. So it's like when you talk about like having people want to be part of this NIL and help bring transfers in, like the more of these old donors die off and you have new donors, they may not feel that same way in the newer generations about making sure their school is great. They might just want to watch the best players. So if you have the best player, yeah, we'll chip in and get them. Otherwise, I'm just going to turn on the TV and watch something else. And I feel like your team's fan bases are going to erode.
Well, one of the things too, I mean, fantasy football, and it's even, I mean, I'm guilty of it too sometimes. Like fantasy football has made me a fan of a lot more players than like teams.
Right.
And no matter what level or fantasy sport you're at, that and just gambling changed the whole landscape. And I love them both. I fucking love to gamble, love playing fantasy football, love watching college sports. But like I said, I feel like with our age range, like we're already hooked. They got us. But how do you get the younger? How do you get your kids, Ryan? How do you get Dylan's kids? Like that's the question. How do you get them hooked and fans for life? Besides us just force feeding them down their throat. But like you said, if Braylon Allen went to Michigan, how many people would have been rooting for Michigan to win the national title then? Because they had Braylon Allen and they just loved Braylon Allen.
Bingo.
So no, I think that's a great point, and it's something they need to figure out. And the funniest part is, if you get 4 fucking doofuses like us into a conference room, and we would probably have more success than they've had figuring it out up until this point, which is fucked.
No,
we're all in the same place with that, and it sucks. I hope better days are ultimately on the horizon, and I don't think they're as far away as it feels right now. Coop, bring us home. What are we doing here this week?
All right, I had 3. I cut one out and in favor of time. Well,
favor of time as we start at an hour and 42.
If I close my eyes, just don't even acknowledge me.
Oh, fuck you. I'm entertaining as a motherfucker, dude.
It's not that you're not
I'm a showman.
That it's fucking midnight almost.
But no, the one I deleted, and I tried to talk her on to coming on this week, and I'll try to do it next week, is actually a story my mom was telling me the other day that I thought was hilarious. I was like, you need to tell this on the pod for what are we doing here? She's like, I'm not going on the podcast. That'd be awesome. Mom, I was like, the people would love you, Mom. So we'll see if we can get her on next week. Anywho, what are we doing here? First, what are we doing here goes out to, I'll probably butcher this too, Badger the A's on what I assume is the Discord, Ryan. I'm not I'm not going to assume their gender. They're they.
Yeah, that's my buddy Blaze. He had some shots for you, so I had to relay the message. Don't kill the middle.
He did. I appreciate him listening to the podcast. I also appreciate calling Dylan out for cutting the recording before the what are we doing here. But the meme that he told you to send me, which one, I don't know if you have a Twitter or not, but you got my Twitter handle, brother. Fucking come at me face to face, dude. Come with the king. But the meme was fun fact of the day. There have been more total solar eclipses than Cowboys NFC Championship appearances in the last 20 years. So I would, in the most respectful way I possibly could, would like to tell you to go fuck yourself. I don't need that in my life right now. I got enough going on. You're gonna come in with some bullshit like that, dude? What are you doing here? And to do it through a third party, come find me. I ain't hard to find, dude.
Group side in plain sight.
I am, always have been. Always have been, Dylan. You know that. But anyway, yeah, jokingly, but fuck that guy. And then my second, what are we doing here? Just watching one. I'm just so upset. College basketball is over. I love college basketball. The tournament's awesome. Both men and women's was great this year. But just one thing while watching these final games, the NCAA basketball trophy is the Stone Nuts worst trophy in all of sports, I think. What are we doing here? It is so difficult to win an NCAA tournament, and you give them a trophy it looks like you put together from fucking IKEA?
I think they're all the same for every sport, aren't they?
Yeah. And they're fucking stupid, Jay.
Yeah.
It is dumb. I mean, if you look at like the college football trophy, the old one where it was like the diamond, like
ball, that
ball.
BCS bowl.
Dude, all that. Give me the Stanley Cup. Give me the Stanley Cup.
Here's another thing, and mainly why I made this, the what are we doing here? It pissed me off. It pissed me off because I saw that and I was like, that's disrespectful to the coaches and the players who earned that. That's a shit trophy. Best trophies. Stanley Cup's number one, right?
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Top my list.
To me, the number two is the Masters jacket.
Good one.
I'd take that, yeah.
And also another one I'd like to, what are we doing here? I love Vince, dude. The Lombardi trophy is a fucking cookie cutter of a fucking
But it's
trophy.
made from Tiffany's.
I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll have breakfast with Tiffany. I don't give a fuck, bro. Are you kidding me? The Lombardi trophy is fucking hideous, dude. I'll say it.
Oh my god.
The Lombardi trophy is a fucking joke.
Well, if you ask
that's what you get.
I've seen one for a while. That's probably why you don't like it.
It's not even that, dude. We got more than you. But like the Lombardi trophy is fucking terrible. So like I said, the college basketball one pissed me off. It reminded me of remember when the WNBA All-Star game gave out the MVP trophy? It was like the size of yeah. That's what that trophy. I saw like Dan Hurley holding the trophy. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? What are we doing?" And then people on Twitter were like, "Oh, it's a really cool detail how they put like the city and like the year they won like on the bottom of the trophy." Oh, that's a cool detail. They put who they beat where for the championship. That's a cool fucking detail for you.
Hey, very underrated trophy. Larry O'Brien, all gold.
Yeah, the LOB is nice. But like I said, dude, the BCS, that crystal football.
And it came out so you could lift it up.
Yeah. Give me a crystal. I need a crystal basketball or something. We need something way cooler.
Pretty cool.
And while we're on this,
give it to Mertz. Mertz to drop that thing.
Hey, keep my goddamn quarterback's name goddamn mouth.
While we're on this, though, real quick, they have terrible trophies, but the Final Four logos, sick. They really brought them back. And I'd love to see the Super Bowl get away from these fucking generic logos they have and start making them like city specific again. Those are always fucking dope. So good logos, terrible trophy. Like, how are you honoring your champion with something like that?
Who's honoring them? Which agency?
The NCAA.
Okay, there you go. There's your answer.
True.
I'm convinced they just don't have normal people making any.
They don't have any money for that. They don't have any money for that.
Like,
that's probably true.
Like I said, it's like they went to IKEA and we were like, "Hey, we want to do a partnership with you guys where you make the trophy every year. We'll put it together, but you make the trophy."
It looks like somebody went to Hobby Lobby. What are you talking about?
Dude,
that was a create your own.
It's fucking ridiculous, man.
I think the big takeaway here is stock down IKEA. We got to do better for NCAA champions. Period. You know, wooden plaque is not gonna cut it.
Mm-hmm.
here at our record-setting hour and 49 minutes. We're just going to slide out of here, maybe even be laying in bed before midnight. I want to appreciate anyone who took time to tune in for episode 34. Glad we were able to see this thing through. Sorry for shorting y'all 20 minutes last week. Get you back here next week in Wisconsin.